Hi, this is Dan Bullard, retired electronics engineer, out on the front deck of my houseboat again. In Oregon, I can't actually call myself an engineer because in Oregon you have to have a professional engineer's license or a degree in engineering to call yourself an engineer. So I'm an electronics professional. How's that? But I want to talk to you about a couple of things. In all these videos, I make a big deal about the fact that I don't have a degree. And I want to tell you a little bit about that for you. Those of you who have degrees, or those of you who are thinking about getting a degree, here's what happened to me. I got out of high school, I didn't know what to do, and my parents said, "Do you want to go to college?" I'm like, "Okay." And so they sent me to a junior college where I didn't even know what I was going to specialize in. So I looked around and they had a really interesting looking electronics thing. So I said, okay, that or fluid power, I don't know which one's going to be better for me. So I went into electronics and I was top of the class. Top of the class. And that was in junior college, and my instructor, Mr. Dillon, he actually was a retired Navy instructor from Treasure Island near San Francisco. He was retired from Treasure Island. He was a Navy ET instructor. He was an electronics technician instructor from the ET school in Treasure Island. And he talked about the Navy, and it sounded really interesting. So after I got through half of the class, it was a 2-year thing for a associate's degree. And after I don't know, 6-8 months, he started going into stuff that just didn't interest me at all. I'm like, oh, he wanted me to be a color TV technician. And so I'm like, okay, that's enough of that. I'm going to go in the Navy. So I went in the Navy and avoided being a color TV technician. Instead, I worked on radar and sonar and crypto, and I could tell you more, but I'd have to kill you. So the Navy was great. I learned a lot in the Navy. One thing I didn't learn was computers. I didn't want to learn computers. And so when I got out of the Navy, I couldn't find a place to go. And I went and interviewed at one place, and I said, I need $20,000 a year to live. And the guy says, well, if I had $20,000, I'm working on a deal now. If I come up with $20,000, I'll give you a call. I said, okay. So I went and got a job for $18,000 at another company after I interviewed at HP. They wanted me to do some work there at the fab, and I'm like, ugh, I don't want to be around a fab. So I went to this other company and made $18,000 a year, and I didn't really like it. It was teaching electronics. And I got a call from the guy who told me if he had $20,000, he'd give it to me. So he called me up and he says, I want you to join up, and since you're making $20,000 where you are, I'll give you $20,500. I'm like, cool, okay. So I actually got like a $2,500 raise. It was pretty good. Just, I didn't say anything. I didn't tell him I was making $18,000. He assumed that I just got $20,000 somewhere, and so I'd make more. But that was TTC, and that was a great school. That was Jim Harris. And my op-amp video that has almost 370,000 views, my op-amp video is based on something that Jim Harris would do. Now, Jim Harris would teach electronics just like that, for everything, everything. He started out week 1, this is a wire. Connect the wire from that thing to this thing, and it was basically 5 volts to an LED, right? And it had an internal resistor so it would reduce the voltage. So 5 volts to the LED, and it lights up. Hey, now we can plug the wire in, the light comes on. Unplug the wire, the light goes off. Now let's use a switch. So then you'd wire a switch on a little lab trainer, little Heathkit trainer. You'd wire a switch to 5 volts, and then the other side of the switch to the LED, and now you could do it on, off. And then he would hand out papers with little exercises, and it was basically a wire switch on. So what's on the other end? Oh, it's on. And this one's off. What's at the other end? Oh, it's off. Here's a 1. Oh, what do you have at 1 at the other end? A 1. There's a 0. Oh, you got a 0. And what happens if you have a 1 on one end of a wire and a 0 on the other end of a wire? It's a bad wire. So that's the way he would teach this stuff. And when we were wiring stuff up on our little Heathkit experimenters, Jim Harris would do this thing. He told everybody, all the students, if you have a problem, let me know. So while everybody's wiring up, he would do it. Everybody would be working, and then somebody would say, hey, it's not working. And he'd go, we have a problem. So he'd stop the whole class and make everybody helping troubleshoot the problem. And it was almost always somebody had just stuck the wire in the wrong hole, which is easy to do. But he would go through with a voltmeter. He taught us how to use a voltmeter. Week 1, we used a voltmeter. And so he taught us how to use a voltmeter. Week 1, here's what voltmeter did. We just want to have it on this one setting so you can see it plus or minus, plus or a 1 or a 0, basically. And so we'd have it over there, and now we don't have it over there, so it must be a bad wire. And he'd say, it must be a bad wire, pull the wire out. And the guy would say, no, I see what I did, I got the wrong hole. He says, no, it's a bad wire, pull it out and throw it away. So we made the guy pull it out and throw it across the room. And he would put another wire in, and this time he knew the right hole to do. He put the wire in and it worked, and the whole class learned how to troubleshoot a problem. And it was a great school. I did some stuff there that was amazing. I also did some stuff that almost got me fired. I've seen this guy go by. From the previous school that I was at, I decided I was going to teach Boolean logic. And so I was teaching Boolean logic to this one class, and my boss walked in and watched me. And he waited till a break, and then he told me, if you ever do that again, you're going to be fired. Boolean logic? You don't want me teaching Boolean logic? He says, no, that's not how we teach Boolean logic around here. Stay with me. Don't go weak on me. You got to do things my way. And it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it really works. And I swear to God, I did this for 6 months, right? It was a 6-month class, and I did it for the first half of the year, for the first 3 months. I was just a student. And then he says, look, I'm losing this one professor, or this one instructor. What he meant was he was firing them. And so you're going to take over the new class that he was going to take over, and you're going to teach it. And I've already done 3 months through the class, but now I have to do the other 3 months without any training. And so he wow. It was a big, but at the end of 6 months, we had people that knew microprocessors to the nth degree. I mean, you could say, okay, what is the opcode for load accumulator A on a 6800 microprocessor? And they'd be able to say it's 86. And what's the command for loading accumulator B? Oh, that's B6. 86B6. How do you know? Because you know the binary code. And these students, they knew Z80s, they knew, whatever the Pentium thing was at the time, which wasn't quite a Pentium yet. But the x86 they knew logic better than almost anybody. They knew transistors better than virtually anybody. They knew op amps better than anybody. And after 6 months, they went out in the world and they kicked ass. So that's the way to learn electronics. When I was in ET school in the Navy, one of my friends, a very good friend of mine, his name was Possum. That's what he went by. And he didn't go to ET school. He was going to the fire control technician school. And in fire control technician school, they taught you like that. They taught you without a lot of detail. They taught you gates like week 1. They taught you wires and gates. And that's what Jim Harris did with us. We had on Friday, in the first week, you were doing NAND gates. And so we were doing NAND gates. Boom, you just knew what the truth table was. Here's the truth table. He explained the truth table and da-da. So by Friday of the first week, you were doing NAND gates, right? And then later down the road, when you were doing stuff with the microprocessor, you were doing NAND functions and AND functions and NOT functions and OR functions and shift functions and rotate. You were doing all these things in the microprocessor. And we had students writing code, developing programs for themselves just for fun. And these people had never seen a computer before they walked in the door. They never knew what a transistor was. They really barely knew what a light bulb was. So these guys went out, they knew everything. They knew how to do a numeric keypad and how to encode the data and get it out of the encoder and put it through the microprocessor and make it do things. It was really cool. So that was Jim Harris's thing. And he was kind of a crazy guy. He said, "I'm crazy like a fox." And he was crazy. He was crazy. But he was a brilliant man. And he paid me good money, and then I had to leave him because I was going on to Genrad to do digital and then eventually mixed signal stuff. So it was, it was a really good way to start. If I had gone to college and stayed in college, I'd have been a color TV repairman. Now, what would a color TV repairman be doing right about now? Yeah, he'd probably be retired too, but retired to a lot more humble surroundings. I don't know. And plus, he'd never have discovered harmonics or anything like that, I mean, that's something I did. Oh, and by the way, I only went to high school and 1 year of college, not because I'm an idiot. I have an IQ of 135. So, and that was measured by the Navy. When I went to the Navy recruiter, they almost lost their minds when I went through the test. I didn't do too good in the math part of the test, but I did a really good job in the IQ portion of the test, and I got 134, and I also have a score from another IQ test I took, 135. Now I've gotten scores as low as 70. I think that's the lowest I've ever gotten. And what I did was I went onto an online IQ thing and I took the test trying to get every answer wrong. And sometimes you accidentally got the wrong answer right. That was Professor Dillon again. That was my professor back in college. He told me that he couldn't pass every test that ever came out, but he could fail any test. And so I did that intentionally. You could do that with an IQ test. It's kind of fun. Just see how low you can get. And that's the basic score for, they're going to give you a score just for being human, okay? You're not a dog, okay? So you get like 70 or something like that. So that's the lowest I've ever gotten. Anyway, that's kind of fun. So just so you know, I'm not a complete idiot. I got out of the Navy and I did some really, really cool stuff and eventually did mixed signal, and now I've discovered 6 laws of physics and a formula that even Science Forum says, well, just tell us the formula. I go, well, you're so fucking brilliant. Guess, It's like, come on, you guys can do it. I did it. I don't even have a college degree, I don't have a college degree. I got an IQ of 135. So don't let that fool you, but I don't even have a college degree, and I don't need a college degree. And unfortunately, in Oregon, I cannot call myself an engineer. But that's okay. You don't care. You're not going to come after me. So once again, from the river, this is Dan Bullard.